This task calls for a function as well as some work leading to the calling of the function. So it's going to require us to define a function, and this function is, I'm going to use generate pin as the name of it. I need to also pass in the desired length of the pin as a parameter to the function. So, but also in the main body of the program, I am also going to have to build some code as well. So let's actually start in the main body. It doesn't really matter where you start, but we'll start here. So the first thing that I'm going to have to do is prompt the user and ask them to input the desired pin length, which is referred to using capital N in the original question. So I'm going to use capital N as the variable name, which in many ways feels like a bit of a crime, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it anyway. So I'm going to input, and I'm going to say enter the desired pin length. And the problem is here that input as a function is always going to bring back a string as the result. Therefore, I'm going to have to typecast this into an int before storing it inside n, so that at the point of creation, when n is going to be initialized, that it will be using an int and not a string. Therefore, int will be the data type of n moving forward. So now that we know the desired pin length, what we can do is we can call our function in order to generate the pin. So I'll build a variable called pin, and I'll generate the pin by passing it the value of n, and then we should be able to print the pin is followed by the pin number itself. Now, if the pin to be generated was generated as an integer, there's a risk that, for example, through the randomization it comes up with this as the pin number, but if I store it as an int, it's going to drop the leading zeros, which are actually part of the pin, and then that will violate the requirement that we get to specify the length. So it makes sense that the pin that is generated using a string. Therefore, I'm going to allow this to be of the string data type. I might label it as the string data type, and then here we know that we'll be concatenating a string with a string. So that's the guts of the main body of the program now set up. So now we have to code the ability to generate a random password. I imagine that we're going to end up leaning on the random feature, which is importable in the Python language. So let's just import that. If it turns out that we don't need it, we can remove it, but I do get the feeling we'll be using it. So what I'm going to do is build up the pin number as a string. So I'm going to build a string variable called new pin and just set it to be the empty string. What I'm then going to do is use iteration, and I'm going to, repeatedly build up the pin one character at a time, or one digit at a time, might be a better way to say that. One digit or character, doesn't really matter. Alright, so in order to build this, we're going to set up a for loop that will iterate the number of times given by the length variable, which was passed in as a parameter. So for I in range 0 to length, and that will set up a for loop that will iterate that number of times. What are we going to do? We're going to generate one new integer, and then we're going to append that integer to the end of this string, so that every time we go around the for loop, the new pin gets one character longer. To achieve that, first we generate a new number. To generate a new number, we can use random, which is now available to us, and we can say next int, and we can ask it to give us any value in the range 0 to 9 inclusive. Okay, so this is 0 to 9 inclusive in this case. Actually, I don't think it's called next int, I think it's called randint in Python. Okay, next, having generated the random integer that we want, we now want to append it to the string. So we're going to say that the new pin string becomes equal to the old new pin string plus the string version of this integer. I've pushed the comment off the end of the page there, so I'm just going to move it to sit on top. Okay, so what this has done is generated a random digit in the range 0 to 9 and then transformed it into a string so that we can concatenate it successfully to an existing string. You can see here that this variable obviously has the data type string as well. That's it. Once the for loop is done, we can then return the new pin that has been generated by the function, and that should pass back then the string as desired, and generate pin will then put that into the pin variable, and that should then be displayed. Let's save the program, let's run the program and look for bugs. So if we begin by saying we want a 5-digit pin number, there we go, we get one. And if we want to run it again a few times, let's run it again. Say this time we want a 12-digit pin. 8066 is 4, 7537 is 4, 3713 is 4. Let's run it again a couple more times, just to see if we can get one maybe that begins with a 0. So let's have a 15-digit pin, that's fine. Let's run it again. Let's see if we can do it fairly short. Let's do a 4-digit pin, 5972. Let's run it again with 4 digits just to observe if it's really random. Yeah, okay. It's hard to say, of course, if we had the same pin twice in a row, it would have been pure coincidence, really. Okay, I just typed in the hash there by accident. But yes, we can see that it is indeed giving all of the values from 0 to 9 as possible digits. If we wanted to push the testing of this program a little bit further, then what we could do is we could trap this entire block inside a for loop, and we could say for I in range, we could say 0 to say 100, and then it would ask us for the different values, but instead of it asking us for them, we can just use the value of I. And actually on that note, we can start I at the value 4, because that's the minimum we would want it to be. So if we run this program, then we're not going to be doing input any longer. It's just going to generate some pin numbers for us. And you can see there just at a glance that we're not getting any strange numbers, we're not getting any negative numbers, and every time we call this, it's making the pin number 1 character longer than it was the last time. So generally speaking, I am happy that this is working. I'm just going to reverse that back to how it was, take out the testing block, and then dedent this. You can do format and dedent, or control and opening square bracket to put that back. In terms of commenting, so I just should say read in the desired length, the desired pin length, and then let's see now if we scroll down, generate and display the pin, and then within the function we're going to start with an empty pin which can be added to, and then we repeatedly build up the pin 1 character at a time, and finally we pass back the final pin. Okay, that's it. I'm happy with the 2 parts of this program. I'm happy with the function in its own right, and I'm happy with the main body of the program being able to call the function and pass in the parameter that it needed.